Welcome to episode 20 of 30-Minute Mastermind with me, Simon Turkis. We've got Laurie McGilvery, Julianne Nendel, and today's special guest, we've got James Ellsmoor, the founder and CEO of Island Innovation. And we've been working together for about 8 months now. Today we're going to be talking about remote work, digital nomads, and the rise of this style of work and how it's going to change in the coming, and grow and change in the coming years and decades. It's predicted to keep on growing, especially with what's been going on at the moment with the pandemic, but it's shown people that they can work from home, and also they can work from other locations, whether that's a cafe, a co-working space, or another country even. So James, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and Island Innovation, first of all, and your connection with remote work?
For sure. Thank you, Simon, and thanks so much for having me on to talk with you all. So I am the director of Island Innovation. We are a global organization with the goal of connecting rural, remote, and island communities to share solutions to issues around sustainable development. So we have a really wide variety of stakeholders that take part, from places as diverse as Greenland, Fiji, the Falkland Islands, Tasmania, Okinawa, Alaska, etc., etc. So not just tropical islands, the whole range, and of course the Canary Islands being one of those. And this is something that I guess has only become possible recently as connection and internet has become more and more widespread in more remote areas. And we realized that actually many of these more remote places were facing similar issues, but just had no way of connecting to each other. And so, Hawaii and Greenland are clearly very different, but some of the issues that they face are similar. And so that's why we kind of built this. Specifically on the idea of remote work, why that's relevant. Of course, many of the places in our network are extremely developed, are extremely dependent on tourism. And so as this as the pandemic started since last March, some of these places have been absolutely devastated, most notably the Caribbean, which is the most tourism-dependent region in the world, and some islands such as Aruba, 90% of income is from tourism, and so that just is decimated overnight. Remote work has been kind of one opportunity that has been promoted to replace tourism on these islands and provide an alternative income stream. But also our team is fully remote at Island Innovation with just over 10 of us spread out all over the world. And I think this is just the start of a complete revolution in how people relate to where they work. One aspect of that is travel, but I think it will impact all areas of our life. It's exciting, but like all change, it comes with its pros and cons, and we have to manage that. So yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting directions this conversation could go.
Awesome, thanks, James. And Laurie, you've been working remotely for decades, haven't you?
1997, we set up the company to do just that, to work from wherever we were. And that was, James, thinking back to 1997 doing remote work, it was dial-up in a lot of places. I can remember traveling here to Fuerteventura. Must have been the first times we were coming were 2001 maybe, and trying to find a dial-up internet cafe that we could download our messages. It was very remote working when we were doing it when we started, and it's been our whole life. Our business has been that way, and we travel to clients occasionally when they need us on site, but otherwise we work from wherever we're at. So absolutely, and it was called virtual company back in those days, virtual worker.
And what would you say have been the main...
Digital nomad, though. I love that new term.
Yeah. What have been the main benefits for you, and what did people first think when you said, I'm going to go and work remotely from the other side of the world?
it was really different. It was a really unique kind of way of doing things. And the best way I explained it to people was people have been doing this for their whole life. If you think about on the road salespeople, it's very similar. It's just doing your work by computer from wherever you're at. And fortunately, we established what we're doing from the beginning that way. And we contract people. We have virtual team members, like James said. We don't have employees. We have people that have their own businesses that we contract what we need done.
And you as well, Julianne, you work remotely, don't you, with clients around the world?
Yes, over the last few years, but I was going to say that working in a foreign country, and we all have that in common somehow. We are all not in our home country. So I think it really needs a mindset that you sort of like create a sustainable way of maybe giving back to the place where you are, and maybe think of how you can contribute with your work, with the work you're doing, to the destination, and what can you improve? I for myself, I'm a very much a people person, and I love to have conversation with people. So I really made the effort and honed into learning Spanish, because I live on Tenerife. So that was something that I really embraced, learning language, so I can actually make contact with locals, and that leads also to better understanding and getting to know their way of living. And I always tried to when I came here to get out the positive of the destination. As in all things, there is always good and bad in all countries, in all people, and in everything. So always like trying to highlight the good things as to the negatives. So so that's what I embrace doing with any type of work, whether it was corporate or now over the last years working from home online. So so I think that's a way of approaching to a more sustainable mindset towards also digital nomad life. So what would you say, James? Is that something to work on for the future?
Well, I think there's a lot of opportunities that come with this on a personal level. I mean, there's obviously the change in freedom to basically, for many people, to do your work and live wherever you want. And I think you will, probably you will get some people who use it as a way to go backpacking and just earn a bit of money as they're going. But I think for most people, that is not sustainable on an individual level. You want to find something. And so I think that flexibility is going to really change things. But also, even for people who decide not to travel, just the flexibility to change the way that you live your life. Maybe you decide that instead of working from 9 till 5 in the winter and missing all of the days outside, you decide to take a few hours off during the day and work in the evening if your job allows you to do that. Maybe it allows you to spend some more time with your kids during the day and then again work in the evening. I love the flexibility that I have to be able to work on a weekend, take a day off during the week. There's obviously some limits to that, but that also comes with a certain amount of discipline needed for myself and that I find I'm able to do, but I know does not suit everyone. So I think it's going to be very different for many different people. What you said about kind of the connection with destinations, I hope that we see some real positives come out of this in terms of places that are very tourism dependent. If someone is spending there 3 months in a place as opposed to 1 week. I would hope that that money that they spend is going into the local economy versus someone who stays in a fully catered resort and rarely leaves that, and the money stays within this closed area. If people are buying things from local shops, spending money in local cafes, I would hope that it would be a wider benefit for the community as a whole that is hosting those people.
Absolutely.
James, I understand that there's some places that have really embraced the digital nomad idea, and they're also setting up sort of a tax system for serious professional people who are wanting to go work places for a period of time. Are you familiar with that?
So there's been, I think, a bit of a rush in 2020 for these places, for many places that suddenly found themselves without tourists, to allow people to come in. So some of the most covered ones have been in Barbados, Bermuda, Croatia, several other places as well. Hawaii also had a program. Obviously, Hawaii different to, say, Barbados, because as a state, it can't set its own immigration rules. So they, I think, at one point were actually paying people free flights to get there. So destinations have really had to rethink how they do things. In fact, in Portugal, where I live currently, the Azores Islands have been making a COVID test compulsory, but then actually subsidizing the cost of those COVID tests and paying for them for visitors, I guess under the assumption that those visitors would then spend more than that and contribute even more to the local economy. So it's kind of a different way of doing things. So the one that made a lot of attention was Barbados. Barbados launched a digital nomad visa. Now, what's interesting about that was it's $2,000 to apply. So you're immediately cutting off a lot of people. They've only had around 500 of them awarded. So they decided, and I think this is what is interesting, because there is no one digital nomad or remote worker. There's a whole different group of people. They decided they wanted to, which makes sense as Barbados, go for the high end, maybe trying to attract more families, more professionals, and also their visa was for 1 year. So it was the idea of people were coming for a whole year. What that also allowed you to do is live there for a year, but not have to worry about moving your tax base to Barbados, worry about immigration. So they kind of thought about all of those issues. For many people, those might not matter. If you're only staying 2 to 3 months at a time in a destination, then you're not really that worried about tax or immigration in the same way. Normally that only kicks in after 6 months. So again, different places have dealt with it in different ways. The one that I think is the factor that I think is really the most important and the most successful locations will think about this is the community aspect. People want to be able to go somewhere and have community, and so whether that is a community of other people who've traveled in, but also how do you help people access the local community, whether it's volunteer programs, how do you help build that bridge between locals and the incomers, and I think that's going to be interesting to see how people tackle that.
And I think that's, sorry to interrupt you, Glo, but what the Hawaiian program was doing, wasn't it? I think that was a really good idea. They, excuse me, they integrated voluntary cleanups, I think, or something along those lines, with to actually be able to go to do their work, the remote work program. You had to also agree to do beach cleanups or something like that, and I think that'll be.
I love it.
More places did that, like Bali and the Canary Islands and Caribbean as well. It'd be awesome. That's a fantastic thought, to find ways to integrate people who are coming. I love that idea.
Absolutely, and we are doing this here on Tenerife with Canary Green, a project I'm involved in as well. Simon, you know that we are doing beach cleanups and all sorts of meetups, helping to engage the digital nomads who are coming to work for the project. Engage them in the local community and give back this way. And make friends and new contacts as well. So there's a social interaction.
And that's what sets, I guess, people that come for 3 or 4 months or 6 months or longer, apart from people that come for a week or so as just a tourist. They're often tourists are seen as people that are just going over there and kind of for their own pleasure and not really to actually integrate in the community or help out at all. And I think that's going to be the big shift with, like you're saying, James, about the big shift is coming, and we're moving away from people just going for short breaks. Of course, tourism is always going to continue, but it's more difficult now, especially because with the pandemic, and we don't know how long this is going to go on for. So it makes sense to switch tourism to these longer stays and integrate people as much as possible.
Well, and I think there's a fundamental a change in society, which is, are cities going to be important anymore? And what is the role of a city in the future? Because previously cities existed because people needed to be physically close to each other. And if so many jobs can be done from remotely, I mean, from a remote location, you're already seeing this. Last year, there was a drop in prices in parts of London, but an increase in rural areas in other parts of England as people want to move out to the city. Now, that comes with its own problems as well for communities that will have a sudden influx of people that are raising house prices. I don't want to discount that. But that is going to change a lot of different things. And I think, that's a more fundamental societal thing that will impact what cities are, what rural means, and hopefully that will benefit a lot of people, but it'll be interesting to see where that takes us in the next 10 years. But on the flip side of that, people do still want human connections. And I guess that if you're living in a rural area, in a way, often you actually have more of that than you do in a city. Okay, there might be fewer people per square mile, but then it's far easier to engage with your neighbors, attend community events, etc. So I think there's a lot of, it'll be interesting to see how it evolves.
Definitely.
We're coming down to about almost the last 5 minutes here. Are you okay if I put something up here about your upcoming webinar?
Please do.
Okay. Tell us about this.
So we're hosting, we're actually putting this together because I felt like there was a lot of misunderstanding of this concept of remote work or digital nomads from destinations that were looking to attract them. So we are doing this. Simon put a lot of work into organizing this, and we will have a range of speakers from different destinations, I believe from Curacao in the Caribbean, from Madeira, from Lisbon, where am I missing, Simon? And some other destinations as well, from Arranmore, an island off the Republic of Ireland. I think one more that I'm missing. And basically these are very different places that have tackled this issue in different ways. A really interesting one, I think, will be the one in Ireland particularly. A small island of 500 people, not your mass tourism destination, but they've seen building a co-working space in their community as a way to keep young people living there and to attract immigrants back to the island, in addition to new families to kind of bring in more young blood. So I'm hoping it'll be a really interesting conversation. Thanks for sharing that.
I'll be on it for sure. I want to know more. I want to know more about that one for sure. So that was, let me put it back up quickly. That's going to be on the 9th of February. Do we have a time?
It is at 4 p.m. London time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And
all are welcome, and it's free to register.
And it's www.islandinnovation.co/remote-work.
Yeah, and if you just search for Island Innovation on Google, you should find our site, and then you can go to our events page and see that. We also have a range of other events. We have an Island Finance Forum coming up in April, and next week we have a slightly different webinar that will be looking at the Chinese tourism market and how destinations may want to cater for the fastest growing tourism market in the world. So thinking about what is the future of tourism, basically.
Yeah. The other thing that you have that I attended as well was spectacular. Was it 3 or 4 days, your summit, your annual summit?
7.
7 days. Tell us a little bit about that. We have about 2 minutes left, I think.
So the Virtual Island Summit was in September last year. We'll be having it again in September. Again, a free event to sign up for. We had over 10,000 people register from over 500 islands around the world. We lost count after 500, I think. And the idea was to explore a whole range of different issues around the Sustainable Development Goals. So topics such as healthcare and education for islands, the sustainable tourism, transportation, renewable energy, plenty of others as well. And so we now have this huge library of content from these different sessions that we've ran. We had several leaders. We had the Prime Minister of Fiji, President of Guyana, several other Prime Ministers and Presidents, as well as local practitioners who were doing projects on the ground. So a real range of different people. And yes, it's was a really, really great event.
It was exciting. It was fantastic, Simon. Simon
I'm sure
and
we'll be touching on remote work again as well at the summit.
Yeah, I think so.
And again, you have remote workers around the world, you digital nomads around the world, basically, that are working, putting all of this together.
So our team is in the UK. Well, I'm in Portugal now. We have 2 people in the UK, US, Venezuela, Jamaica, Guadeloupe, which is a French island, Chile, Ghana in Africa. So we have a really wide, broad team. We have a fellow who's joining from Trinidad and another one in Canada. So yeah, really, really, I think what that allows us to do is have this excellent team of people with really diverse perspectives, different ideas that can contribute in a way that really allows us to broaden our minds into how we do things as well. So for me as a business owner, it's a huge bonus to have that. Plus, I don't have to pay for an office, and so I think we really benefit from that.
It's brilliant. We're at the end of our 30 minutes, Simon, and James and Julianne. I can't believe it. It goes whoosh every week. Every week it just flies by. James, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I can't wait to be on your webinar and hear more about it. And we'd love to have you back a bit later.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really a pleasure chatting with you all.